This year, we worked together with 451 Research, S&P Global Market Intelligence, and CPaaS Alliance to do a survey into the, let's say, expectations, market expectations, developments of network APIs. So the next 25 minutes, Raul, I'm looking forward to hearing from you where this is going and how we're going to make money.
Thank you. Okay, well, thanks everyone for coming to this presentation. So yes, I'm an industry analyst working with 451 Research, which is now a part of S&P Global. And I have been with the company for almost 12 years, most of them looking at starting with mobile app development and then more specifically on CPaaS, and over the past couple of years, network APIs. So I've had the chance to talk, discuss, share insights with a lot of you here. So what I'd like to do is, there's two separate presentations here. What I'd like to share is first the global survey that Rob mentioned. This is an initiative that we did together with the CPaaS Alliance to understand what the state of the market is specifically for network APIs by asking directly to telcos and also technology vendors. So the survey is still ongoing. We launched it in August, and we have just over 40 responses so far. So if you haven't, please help us sharing your opinion. Here's a link, and we'll be sharing the presentation with all of you. We did, however, take those results up until, I think it was Thursday last week, and we're going to share. There's some interesting insights there. Obviously, some of the questions will start making more sense when we get more input, but there's some interesting insights that we want to share with you. We plan to continue with the survey, probably keep it a little bit longer, and then revise it as usual. Once you have it in the field, you realize that you want to change things. So we will revise it and relaunch later this year or early next year. So who has been answering? Where are the responses? Yes? Oh, excellent. Thank you. So where have we been listening? Who has been answering this? So you can see that most or the largest cohort is from Europe, and then Asia, North America. We have one from Latin America. I'm very embarrassed about that, but we will keep pushing. And then the participation is more or less split, almost half between the CPaaS technology providers, so that could be the CPaaS vendors, CPaaS enablement aggregators, and telcos. We have a few telcos that have been answering. We've extended to include industry analysts, non-CPaaS vendors, and cloud technology vendors. So that's who we're hearing from. We did ask questions in terms of deployment, commercial deployment for communication APIs and network APIs. From our perspective, like I said, it's not a huge sample yet, but it is significant that we see 40% of those participating and an additional 13% either deploy or planning to deploy within the next 1 to 3 years. And as you know, with the cycles with telcos, that's really, from my perspective, very, very positive. And we asked different questions for those that have deployed and those that have not deployed. So for those that already have deployed, network APIs. Monetization, not surprisingly, came back as the top reason to do this. And then, interestingly, if you look at why some of these telcos have not yet deployed, or in many cases, they will even say that they haven't really even started a formal analysis of the initiative. The responses kind of gravitate around executive buying or not being marked as a strategic priority. So obviously, as we know, they will have a series of goals and initiatives that they're working on, and so far, this one hasn't made it up the list. And then, interestingly, when you ask separately technology vendors what is happening, I'm sure you won't be surprised by this. They're waiting to see what happens, who else is going to join, how many other operators are going to join the initiative. There was a response, and there were some open-ended questions also that I thought was quite interesting. This individual that shared his or her thoughts. There is hesitation in terms of the ROI. They don't have the developer relationships, or they don't know about the ecosystem. And then there's also some hesitation regarding whether there is too much market hype, how much of that is real, what's going to actually happen. All of that is understandable. And I do have some thoughts on that, but I'll share them in the next slide deck. So we selected 10 of the network APIs from the GSMA Open Gateway Initiative to kind of gauge what the interest is, where the use cases lie. And then for, we had that, or we disaggregated the responses from telcos and then from technology vendors. There's a little bit of an overlap, but then also some interesting differences, where you have the telcos leaning more toward the IMEI fraud number verification. And then after that, the quality on demand also comes up. And compared to the tech vendors, you can see the subscriber identity comes at the top. So there's a few there, and then others a little bit further down the list. There's also some optimism, if you will, for quality on demand. So it does look like that's one network API where there's a lot of interest, but some hesitation as to whether it is feasible in terms of the use cases. Now, we also asked technology vendors, and we were focusing specifically on them because that's a lot of the constituents of the CPaaS Alliance, so we really wanted to hear from them what their thoughts are, what their experience has been talking to, to telcos. So one of the questions was, what should telcos focus on? The majority recommend, and this was for specific APIs, SIM swap for fraud prevention and device location verification. And in terms of the use cases, finance and insurance, I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise for all of you, but then also media and telecommunications, specifically streaming services and gaming. So at some point, either after the session or in the breaks, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this. And like we said, we're going to share the slide deck. So another initiative that we've been working on is based on the one question that we always get from telcos technology vendors and also investment bankers, everybody seems to kind of want to know what is the real market opportunity for telcos. And that's a very difficult question to answer, as you can imagine. So we did an exercise. We built a model to estimate, to gauge what the opportunity and how much money can telcos actually make on this. And I realized after we did all this work that that's probably not the right question, but let me show you the presentation and you'll see why. So what we found, and I'll share also with you the assumptions for this exercise, 90% of the market opportunity is on anti-fraud subscriber identity solutions. And then the largest opportunity is in North America, and finance, insurance, banking are the key verticals. Now, this obviously reflects the assumptions that we have, but we also use real market data in terms of number of companies by size, by vertical, by region. We also account for differences in terms of what, once commercially deployed, what the differences will be in the different markets, Latin America, Asia versus North America, and so on. But this is how we could frame the market opportunity for now. Now, in terms of the assumptions, so in a similar way as with the survey, we focused on 10 network APIs. The reason for this was that once we started looking at the use cases and verticals, it just became such a gigantic task that we had to narrow it down and be selective. We do plan to continue the analysis and add other network APIs, and of course, we know there's the framework is evolving constantly, so there's new ones being added. So we will do an evaluation and see which ones we can add next. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. And this was based on the use cases for the specific network APIs that we believe have a stronger likelihood of gaining traction upon launch. This is based on market data that we have for similar services or equivalents. In some cases, we do expect there will be many new services with the network APIs coming to market, but you need a starting point. Now, the model is built in a way that you can play with the different APIs or select specific regions or even by country, vertical, company size, and so on. So if there's something that you specifically want to know, we might be able to play with that and have a conversation. The current opportunity as we looked at it, and again, just to reiterate, this is for those specific 10 network APIs. They are listed in the presentation. The other parameters that we included were, when we started the analysis, which was around May, we looked at what the GSMA had published in terms of which telcos have launched commercially, and also the countries, and that's the basis for the core analysis. Thinking that could provide a more realistic view of what the opportunity is. So from our perspective, right now it stands at 12.6 billion, where North America is the top market. So again, the 23 countries represented, those were the ones where there was a commercial deployment of network APIs based on the GSMA Open Gateway framework at the time of the analysis, which was May. And again, this is for 10 of them. So playing a little bit with the model, we just started asking questions like what could happen if we expand to different verticals. So we selected specific verticals for the model based on the use cases and also company sizes just based on adoption for digital transformation initiatives. So that expands the market opportunity to 16 billion. And then we did another exercise where we basically ask what happens if with those 10 network APIs, but looking across all verticals, company sizes, and countries also. So not just including the ones where you have commercially launched network APIs. So that brings it up to 21 billion. And I'm very curious as to what your reaction to these numbers is. And I mentioned at the beginning that, from my perspective, asking how much money is there in for telcos is probably not the right question. The reasons for this, if you hear the telcos that are leading the initiative, so think about Telefónica, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, they don't talk in terms of how much money they're going to make. It's a strategic growth opportunity. That's typically what we hear. So I think that's an important indication for the telcos that are evaluating whether to join. Now, the other consideration here, and if we go back to what we consider the current opportunity, so this number looks at the revenue that could be generated just based on the 10 network APIs that we listed. So again, depending on the business model, there is a split here between the telcos and the aggregators or technology vendors. Now, again, why we think it's not the right question to ask, because we don't think that's how telcos should be looking at the business. There's enormous number of opportunities here based on bundled services, adding to other services with communication APIs, expanding digital services. There's also a huge opportunity with B2B2C. That one was really difficult to assess, but it's very significant. And then a different business model also in terms of comparing it to B2B. So with that in mind, we do think there are some insights in terms of recommendations. We do think that there is, again, I'm sure you're not surprised by this, a very clear market opportunity in North America. And Latin America, I think that the way we look at the region, it's still very small, but has significant growth potential and adoption of digital services, digital communications. Specifically for countries, this was also very difficult to assess. And we couldn't include India because they have a whole different way of looking at the network API, so we couldn't fit that into the model. But I'm sure it could be up there next to China. And then you can see some of the Western European countries. And then in terms of the company size, if you think about what priorities should be set for telcos, large enterprises, clearly. The assumptions for the model are based on companies above 50 employees, and that was just to identify what we fit in the model, and also it's based on what we have observed in terms of digital transformation adoption. So we wanted to look at what the near-term opportunity looked like. And then in terms of verticals, so we talked about finance and insurance, but also software and technology, followed by media and telecommunications. And then in terms of the specific APIs, those are the things that we were looking at. Number verification, one-time password, device status, SIM swap. And the numbers that you see here reflect certainly the assumptions that we have for the model, but also the number of use cases, type of use cases, potential revenue for those use cases. So with the model, we were also able to present a deep dive for specific verticals. This is for banking, finance, and insurance. And this kind of shows you what's behind the scenes, how we looked at the use cases for the specific APIs, and then specific examples. We try to make it as specific as possible, thinking about the questions that we typically get. So how much is it in for the telcos? Who are we going to sell it to? And the timer is ticking. So I just want to leave you with some thoughts summarizing what we found out. So we do believe that the verticals, company sizes, countries that we show here are probably the leading opportunities for telcos. Now, I don't know if the number that we're presenting looks smallish to you, maybe, but it's not just what we expect the telcos will generate selling network APIs, but as some of the panelists here have mentioned, it's really more about the use case for the network APIs. One thing that stands out to me is we did a split based on how much aggregators versus telcos will get. And this is a very personal opinion, so I hope I'm not offending anyone here. We did the model with a 70-30 and a 60-40 split. And we hear different things from vendors. From my perspective, it has to be kind of closer to the 60-40 to make it compelling for telcos. And probably maybe try to avoid the same challenges with communication APIs where you have highly commodified services. We do think the business model will change, and that was also mentioned by some of the panelists. So probably more leaning towards outcome-based rather than usage-based, which is a traditional model for CPaaS. But in terms of distribution, we do think that there's already CPaaS vendors have already paved the way. And then someone was asking Henry this morning, how long will it take? We do think that because of the CPaaS experience, that will help telcos with the launch and deployment of network API. So there's already a lot of work done there. There's already the developer ecosystems. So I think that's the opportunity there. And I think we have like 1.5 minutes if anyone has any questions, comments, complaints. Does it look more or less reasonable to you? I'm not sure what part of the presentation was that.
Well, you said 12.6 billion.
Yeah.
Current forecast.
Yeah.
Going forward.
That could be right now, assuming.
The market is 12.6 billion now, or could be if people did the right thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Could be if people did the right thing.
Yes.
Even though we're in the middle of September of 2024 now,
Yeah, but it's an addressable market analysis, so not a forecast. We do have a forecast, and I'm not going to show it to you because it could make you very sad. But we do have a forecast. Any questions, comments? Does this look interesting? Relevant? Yes. Well, we did the TAM analysis precisely because we were getting a lot of feedback from the forecast that was not very happy feedback. But I think that the question that was raised is very valid. Right now, it's a very small market. It's just getting started. What does it actually look like in terms of the market opportunity for telcos? That's a question that we were trying to answer. I think we kind of got halfway there. I could like to add other variables here in terms of the business that just launching these APIs will generate, and that can be significant. Quite frankly, I don't think there is a solid, compelling case for telcos if you talk just strictly ROI, selling network APIs. There's a bigger picture there, and I forgot if that was what you asked me. Okay. Get to the, I'm sorry? To Yes, on the first, second, or third slide, because oh, okay. So it's basically that could be bridging the gap between the existing product and then the market. I could go to what we've been hearing this morning from all the presenters. Focus on the use cases, focus on the verticals that we're pointing out here, the countries and so on. From my perspective, looking at the bigger picture here and also the results from the survey, and again, if you have, if you're in the telco environment, it makes perfect sense that you want to wait and see what happens. These are huge investments. There's a lot of risk. I think that this is one of those cases where for telcos, it's a leap of faith. You won't see like specific, solid evidence that we can demonstrate with an analysis like this, that it'll be the next best thing. But I think that listening to the Deutsche Telecoms and Telefonicas and so on, there is a significant opportunity there for telcos to transform how they do things. And again, I think talking about it in terms of ROI within 1 to 2 years and so on, and then revenue from network APIs, I think that's just the wrong way to frame the discussion. I hope that's helpful. And you'll get a copy of this, and feel free to ask me any questions. Yes? Thank you. Yeah.
Trade-off, let's call it opportunity, let's call it whatever. What do you think? Another technology that was hyped many years ago, right? And it's come out on the street, and a technology which will be very impactful
Yes.
in the future going forward. What's your take on that?
Well, I've been very bullish on RCS for I don't know how many years, and I have been very sad for many years. I do think that is coming. I think it is a moment for RCS, just like this is the moment for network APIs. And this will be a significant change, not just certainly for the telco industry, but in terms of the overall customer experience. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think all of this revolves around commerce, one use
Yes.
There probably what you will see is that forecast increasing. If you're successful to show up.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We did limit this to very specific use cases and verticals. That's because if you leave things like too general, then you can just blow up the numbers. However, we do want to continue building on this. We wanted to have something that could be defensible. So these are the use cases, these are the services, this is how the APIs factor in to make it realistic. But you're right, I don't think we even covered half of the use cases for these APIs. Yes, that's a great point, and I struggled a lot with that because I really think that the experts are the telcos. I did work with telcos like a long time ago, so I'm familiar with the product development and launch, but I really think that what we did was we needed to build something that telcos could use, and then they could very well say the use cases that you have here, they're no good, and that's fine. We just need like a framework to work with. But I really think that's more for the telcos and their ecosystem of advisors. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Raul. Yeah, we're going to stop it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know everybody was hoping, I was certainly hoping to see a clear market opportunity of a couple $100 billion and with instructions of how to make that, right, next year. It's always sad that things are more complicated. But I like to introduce the next session. Can we switch?